Welcome to this free drawing beginners course. During this 3-hour tutorial, you will be learning all the basics of drawing and sketching. If you would like to learn everything about this skill and start drawing like a pro, go to skillademia.com and get access to the full course. Now, let's begin.
Hello and welcome to this drawing course. My name is Camilo Aguirre. I'm an artist from Colombia, and I would like to teach you how to draw in a very intuitive way. In this course, we will have 6 parts, having a very big first part about the main concepts and the elements that we would have in a drawing. We will learn about organizational line and relational thinking and how can we implement that in our own art, right? So that will be the first part. We will draw with charcoal, we will draw with pencils, like whatever we have at hand. We won't get too much into color in this course because we are going to learn how to draw mainly, and we are learning how to observe. We are going to learn how to observe and how to have like some elements in our drawings, right? And after that big first part, we will have a second part about line variation, and we will learn about line quality, how to convey different things by just having different amounts of pressure with our pencil or different thickness, levels of thickness in the line, right? So line weight and line quality will be very important in this second unit. In the third part, we will approach planar analysis, which is dividing your volumes into planes. This is important to understand the structures of things that are three-dimensional, and then we are trying to convey them as two-dimensional in a plane, right? So this part will be important to analyze different structures, to analyze like how the presence or the structure of an element is, right? Our fourth part will be about perspective. We won't get too deep into perspective, like it'll be like a very short part. Maybe we will see some concepts of linear perspective, right? Like vanishing points, horizon lines, orthogonal lines, and how to implement that, right? After that, we will have a fifth part about value, which means how to control contrast, how to have a value scale, how to shade, how to convey certain textures, right? That'll be our fifth part. It's one of the most fun parts because it's like about playing with like different levels in the grayscale, right? Our sixth part is not so much about observation, like not about like observational elements, but we will have a quick introduction to human figure. From the first to the fifth part, we would have developed like certain observational skills using mainly pictures and still life elements or objects, right? But in the last part, in the sixth part, we will try to draw a human figure, implementing both like quick tips about structures and maybe some other elements like the ones that we have studied from the first to the fifth part, right? So not only we will try to understand like how gesture drawing can develop a pose, but we will also try to analyze the pose with planar analysis or line variation or organizational line. So that'll be the sixth part. And we will make different exercises that might sound like weird, like for example, drawing a crumpled piece of paper, drawing a blind contour drawing, making a composition into simple shapes. But that is to sharpen our observation skills. So I think you should select this course over other courses because my method is very intuitive. I have learned and I have kept learning along the years. I have learned with masters in different areas, like for example comics or storyboarding or drawing or even sometimes like cartooning, right? So I think that has helped me to have an approach towards observation and intuition more than formulas, because formulas at the slightest shift, they are not useful anymore, right? So that's one of the reasons that you should take this course. And also, if you want to learn how to draw and if you want to have fun, if you want to push yourself towards making some very fun exercises, I think that will be useful for you. And I will try to challenge your creativity with this course. I hope you enjoy the course and let's get started. All right, so as I was saying before, we can draw with anything. To be honest, if you see other artists, like for example, Big Maniz, he's drawn like with a lot of stuff, even with candy or I don't know, spaghetti sauce or whatever, right? But for this class, we will have some particular elements to draw, and I will explain them. You don't have to have the same materials, but it's always useful. And there's a thing, like we are going to use mainly graphite-based materials to draw. We are going to use maybe some pencils and charcoal, maybe some graphite pencils, right? And we would use as our main support paper, sketching paper. You can use whatever you want. If you want to use cardboard, you can use cardboard. If you want to use wood, you can use wood. But I suggest to start with paper and pencils. Why is that? Because that way we can learn a little bit about the structure that we can construct with lines. We can talk a little bit about or learn a little bit about the way we organize the lines, right? The way we organize the proportions and all of that. All right. So I'm going to start by showing you. Maybe we can start with the board. Why do we have a board? Why do we have like this big piece of wood? This piece of wood that we have here is useful for one thing. First, usually people tend to draw a little bit bigger when we need to exercise this part of the arm, right? That is the one reason a lot of artists prefer to draw a little bit bigger, right? In this case, I just brought this little board, right, as a support. We're going to take the paper and tape it in here. For that reason, we also have tape, right? I brought simple masking tape. There's something called artist tape, which is blue and waxed. And you can get them in many countries. In the US, in Europe, I think they have that. It's usually blue, has a little bit of wax, and it is acid-free. This tape that I have in here, it is absolutely acid, but you can get acid-free tape if you want, and that will help preserve the drawings that you make. For now, I think we can use like something more simple, something more humble, and that will help us, right? This is to just to make the paper still on the board. And as I was showing, I have one sketchbook. It is old and used, right? This one in here has this brand. I think it is Canson. It is different in different countries and they have like different variations. They will usually recommend starting with, like newsprint or something like that. But I think sketching paper is fine. It is a little bit porous. It has a weight of, I think, 90 grams, right? It is not a very thick paper, but we're not working with watercolor or oil. We're just working with pencil. And for that, I think that's just fine. There's other papers. I have another sketchbook in here that is full of drawings already too. And this one has Bristol paper, right? We can see here that this Bristol paper is a little bit smoother. It works just fine whenever you're trying to get like a lot of value and like a, how would I say that? Maybe like a smoother render of your drawings, right? You can use whatever you want, as I was saying before, and you can use a pencil on whatever you want, right? So if the lead can have some friction on the surface, I think that's enough for a pencil to work. Okay, I brought a little ruler over here. This one has this cork back. I used to use it for printmaking. Why metal ruler for printmaking? Because I used to cut with it, so I wouldn't. I don't know. I wouldn't damage the ruler if the knife was I don't know, crooked or something. I have this ruler too. This one is used mostly for comics. Why? Because it is transparent and you have like this little grid in here. And with that grid, you can get precision for layouts and margins and all that sort of stuff. Am I a fan of the ruler? Not so much, to be honest. But when you see my drawings, you're going to see like some of the straight lines. Whenever I refuse to use the ruler, can get a little crooked and a little wonky. So yeah, you can use them. What else do we have here? We have a couple cutters, right? These are the cheapest cutters ever, but they do their job, right? We can get like a spearheaded X-Acto knife, right? But these ones are for sharpening our pencils, and sharpening our graphite pencils, and everything else, right? Yeah, they do their work just fine. What else do we have in here? So we have these sticks, right? Why do we have these sticks? I only need one, to be honest. Why should I use it? I don't know. I'm maybe for measuring, right? Whenever we are working with drawings that come from observation, right? Or figure drawings from observation, we need something to measure. Usually people do that with their own pencil, but I just bought this because like they're very cheap and we can use them as a reference, right? We just need to understand like a unit of measurement in here, and from then we can get whatever we want. I also brought like a couple toys. I mean, yeah, but let's go with the erasers first. I have this common eraser, right? It's like a, I don't know, a very, very cheap eraser. It's already used. And yeah, it's a normal eraser, nothing to say about it. You can use it if you want. But the thing is that usually, and here I have Kneaded Eraser. It's a Colombian brand. And I don't think it is the best possible. If you can get the gray one from Creta, or if you get the, I don't know, I think Windsor has also like very nice gray kneaded eraser. Yeah, you can use that one. The thing with the kneaded eraser is that you don't have like particles or dust coming from your drawing. And you can actually give it any shape. So you can, I don't know, like make a little point like this, or make it flat, or just like, I don't know, like rub it on top of the part that you want to erase, or not even erase. Maybe you can actually draw with it. We are going to learn many lessons away from this one, how to use it as a drawing tool, right? We can graduate the value with this, and that's gonna work just fine. I think actually one of my favorite ways of erasing is this. In terms of erasing and I don't know, like clearing the value in the drawing, I have this little toy, right, that I bought. Was like $9, and it is an electric eraser. I just press this button, and then this thing starts like spinning with a little motor that it has. It is pencil shaped, so you can like erase like this. But I think, yeah, I use this whenever I'm like getting into a lot of detail. Not all the times, right? When I'm sketching, I don't usually use this one. And as you can see, I have this one graduated with a very, very thin eraser, right? It has like this little adapter here. And this one, which is more simple, that's like $2 back a long time ago. You can even see like the mechanism, right? Like there's some batteries and there's like the motor here. And here we have a little eraser that we can remove whenever we finish using it, or whenever it's done, right? Or too shrunk to be used, right? So yeah, I think that one's also like a nice toy. But as I was saying, I usually use it for whenever I'm highlighting or I'm working with rim light in heavily lighted drawings. That's when I use this particular eraser. Here I also have clips, right? These clips, binder clips. They are great. I mean, everyone should have this in their houses. Why not? Why? Because they're so useful. We can fixate the paper on our board with this. If we don't want to tape it, we can hang drawings with them, right? So it's very useful. I always have like some of them around. All right. I am delaying the pencils because I would like to go with other stuff first. So before I continue, I wanted to show you like some other stuff that were in my real pencil holder, the one that I usually use, the one where the little chunks of pencil are living in, right? So I wanted to show some of the things that I have there just to share like other options that we have, right? For example, I have this couple of like very big leaded pencils. One of them is an HB and the other one is a 8B, right? 8B, HB. They're very useful whenever I'm working on big things or whenever I'm working on a drawing that is very dark, right? I also have these 0.9 lead pencil. It is great. I've worked with him so long, and I think it's very useful. It has this rough texture to make where you can like sharpen the lead if you want to be more precise. Yeah, it has a very good grip, and you can graduate here like what kind of lead are you using. However, I think that's like not that necessary. I usually have white, if not white charcoal, maybe some white color pencil. Sometimes it is useful when you're working with toned paper or when you're working with I don't know, like when you want to highlight some things in the drawing or give it another texture. Remember that if it's a color pencil, it has wax. If it's a white charcoal, it doesn't have that much wax and it's going to work just fine. Okay, I have this color pencil that I usually use for my drawings that helps me darken some areas when I don't want to mix graphite and charcoal, because sometimes there's a weird looking maybe sometimes the graphite is very bright and the charcoal is very opaque, and that way we can mess up like the appeal of a drawing or the way you look at it directly, right? Have this little pencil with no other intention than to showing you a pencil extensor. Those are very useful, like many artists have a lot of these. Why? Because it helps you have a better grip, to elongate the pencil that you're working with, and to have to hold the pencil a little bit better, so you are not like casting a shadow on top of a drawing with your own hand, right? I have two of them right here, right? Here I have what would be a graphite pencil maybe, but this one is sepia colored, I think. It is, can you see like the brown tone that it has? Well, there's many of these and you can get them and they're so useful. You just sharpen them with like a normal sharpener like this one. And that way you can have like a nice tone if you're working with this, right? Or if you want. But there's also graphite pencils that come in different, in the same category as other pencils, with the letters and the numbers. Here I pulled out this pencil because this particular pencil is sharpened with a knife. As you can see, I have like an inch, right, of lead. Why do I have an inch of lead? Because I want to have like different angles for my pencil to work with. Like if I need to make something that is very fun, I use it like a little bit more vertically inclinated. And if I use it for some areas that I want to cover, I just recline it a little bit, right? I have this. This is one of my favorite things. It is a charcoal and graphite holder. It is very ergonomic. I think this one's brand is Cretacolor, I think, Creta color, and I don't know, it's amazing. I love it. Why do I love it? Because we have a little sharpener in here. We can sharpen with this thing, and that way we will have a pointy piece of charcoal all the time to work with. This was a pencil that was there. Okay, so now I showed you this, right? And I didn't say anything about specifications in terms of like pencils, like how do pencils work? I can talk about that if you allow me. I have this little box unopened because I have all the other little chunks over there. Oh, look at them, it was used. I can sharpen some of these. What I wanted to show you with this is that actually here we have some numbers, right? And we have some letters. What does that mean? As you can see here, we have like 6H, 6B, 7B, right? Let me show you 7B, 8B, 4B. What does that mean? Well, pencils are just lead covered by wood, right? Or like a piece of lead surrounded by wood. And the way the lead is made, or the properties that lead has, are the ones that are defined within this letter and number, right? The word H means hard, and the word B means black. So you can see that the higher the number, if it's an H, the harder the lead would be. Harder leads are more precise, but they are lighter, and they tend to be shinier too, right? However, when we use an H lead, we have a thinner line, and we cover more of the surface of the paper with it. It is weird, yes, but when we draw with a B, for example, which is like a little bit darker and a little bit, I would say, softer, right? As the opposite of hard, right? When we have a B, we can work with it, and we can see that even if it's super black or super dark, it doesn't cover the whole surface of the paper because it is softer. So we have like tiny pores coming out from our surface, right? From the paper, for example. So yeah, remember, a lot of people tend to use many of these, like to have like the one from 8H to 9B or 7B. Sometimes they have like a little bit more charcoal in their composition, but I don't use that many. I think I try to balance the value with some of the with the pressure, like by erasing and going back to another pencil. Like I don't usually use that many, and I'm a big fan of very dark drawings. So whenever I use DH, it's like for higher values, for very precise things. I know that architects tend to love using like H LEDs, like 6H, HB, right? In my case, I love the Bs. So yeah, that's it about pencils. All right, I wanted to show you some other materials that I have and some other supplies that I use. Here I have a little sharpener for graphite, or for graphite-based leads. This has like a little bit of sandpaper, right? And in this piece of sandpaper, I also have, I can like sharpen, I don't know, maybe this charcoal that I have here, right? And I sharpen it, and that's it, right? Something that's also very useful, at least for me, is to gather and collect the graphite or charcoal powder. This is going to be super useful when we get to use the tone paper, or when we want to tone like the paper that we are working with, just to have like a mid-tone spread through the surface of our paper. Here I have a smudge, right? It's like a piece of like paper that I have. I can also like file it here. This is 7/16 inches, I guess it is. And here I have another smudge, which is a little bit cleaner. In this little, well, it's not little, but yeah, in this pencil holder that I have here, I brought today our charcoal, right? You can see that this is like a general's white charcoal, which is very useful when we're working with charcoal or whatever else to add like some detail whenever we cannot erase enough, right? We have another white pencil here. We have some compressed charcoal pencils like this, right? This is a sepia one. No, this is charcoal. And we have this piece of charcoal here. These are useful because you can grab them better and you have the wood around them. So that's good, right? What else do we have? I have the good one. What is the good one? Like the good kneaded eraser that I need, right? I have this one, which is super old, kinda hard, right? But I also have this kneaded eraser from Generals. And I have this, I like this one. Usually whenever people make recommendations about kneaded erasers, they usually tell you like, well, you should use the gray one because the blue one tends to smudge. But I've had a good experience with the red one. I mean, this is like a Colombian brand, so I don't know if you have something like this, but it's been super useful for me whenever I need to tone stuff, right? Or erase. Here I have a 2mm mechanic pencil. It's good. I don't know. I think it's useful sometimes. Be careful of what kind of LEDs do you use, because this one, I think it's a Faber-Castell HB, right? They usually have like a little sharpener in here. You can also sharpen them with whatever else, but yeah, I used to use them with blue LEDs for comics. I used to make comics with like this 2mm pencil holder. 2mm mechanic pencil. But yeah, now I'm working with something else. Now for this drawing class, we won't use like a lot of colored LEDs. Talking about that, I wanted to show you what I have in this other case, or this other pencil holder. So here I have graphite. Some of them are broken. This one has charcoal, compressed charcoal with a little bit of wax. So it's like a very dark tone that it makes. It's almost like a color pencil in the sense that it has wax and it doesn't stain a lot. This one's orange one that I found. And here I have like other sorts of graphite pencils, right? Woodless graphite pencils. They're very useful and they come in different numbers. Here I have like Cretacolor. That's like one of the most famous brands for drawing supplies. And I also, what's the brand of this one? Progress. So yeah, that's the brand from this one. And this one's a 9B, right? An 8B over here. And here I have a 4B and another 4B. So be careful when you're working with your materials because different brands interpret like from 7B to 9B in different ways. In some cases, when they, for example, Stadler, when they use 7, 8B or 9B, they usually add a lot of charcoal. So those are a little bit darker than the, for example, 9B or 10B graphite or 8B graphite pencils, right? Here's a little charcoal pencil that I have. I think it is very similar to a lithography pencil, to a litho pencil, less greasy, I think. And all you have to do is like to pull this thing and to uncover the lead. I'm doing it wrong right now because I'm not gonna get up to the lead at this point. I hope so. So I'm taking it out. I hope I get to the lead because I'm going like very thin, right? I think I will. Whoa, that was not good. But yeah, I can take a little bit more from it. Now I'm gonna have a huge lid. I hope. Well, yeah. So I think with this, I also have a couple. I have this is not charcoal, to be honest. This is like a piece of like white colored pencil, right? Like a white colored lead that doesn't have any wood around it. Again, another white charcoal pencil. 3 of them to be more precise. And yeah, these are very useful, as I was saying. Whenever you're working, for example, with tone paper, or whenever you're working with, I don't know, something that has a lot of, like a very high value, right? A picture that has a very high value. And yeah, for today, that will be it. So, recommendation, gather charcoal dust and gather graphite dust, and maybe, yeah, like use whatever you want to draw. That's it. I hope you enjoyed it or learned a little bit about it, and thank you. All right, so we can start thinking about drawing, but the first thing is like, what should I draw? Usually, whenever we are trying to start drawing or when we're beginning, we tend to try to get straight to the hard stuff, you know? Like the first thing that you want to draw is always like anatomy or perspective or all those things that, well, they're the goal, but meanwhile, we have to understand how the things work. So here I have a set of props, and these props are going to work as models. Why are they useful? They have different shapes, right? Different volumes. They also have different materials, right? For example, we have, let's start with this polyhedron here. Polyhedra, I think. So we can see that they have different angles and different shapes, and separate, they're simple, right? But as long as we can see, as long as we can see how are they working, or we can watch like the shapes that they have, if we pay attention, we can understand that the relationships between them can be interesting visually, right? For example, here we have like this tiny equilibrium between them, and in different angles, right? We have different ways of seeing them. That is important, and we have to start first with observation. As a cartoonist, as a person who draws comics, and as a person who loves to draw from memory, this was hard to understand, that I had to observe the world that surrounded me instead of like, I don't know, like memorize it or just see pictures. It is important to see the things in the real world, because that way we are using our own eyes, and our eyes are the ones that are going to determine the depth, the elements that we have in the drawing, the different things that we're working with. So yeah. And for example, here we have these plastic fruits, right? Here we have plastic orange, plastic apple, plastic banana, and a plastic mango in a bowl. So you might think like, okay, isn't this like a cliche in the term in drawing? Like, yeah, the still life with the fruit, and why do they keep using that? Haven't we gone or haven't we advanced away from it? Well, we actually haven't. I mean, they have interesting shapes. Some of them are round, which we must find a way to draw them if they are round. They're not like this polyhedron, right? They're not like this sharp pyramid, right? They work in a different way. For that reason, it is always useful to have them around, because we can understand the organization between them. And that's another word that we are going to keep using: organization. Why? The most elements we have in our picture, when we are using organizational drawing and all that, the most points of reference we will have when drawing, okay? So that is the thing that I wanted to explain. In terms of, I don't know, like drawing, or in terms of getting the shapes in a correct way, having other things interacting with the thing that we want to draw help us with the proportions, with the size, with the scale, with the line value, with the line variation, with the line weight, right? And later we will see that even with the value, okay? Here we have, I don't know, like this vase. So this is just a bunch of cylinders, right? With variations in the base of the cylinder. And whenever we have cylinders, it is a nice opportunity to learn how to draw ellipses, right? Or to learn how to draw a circle, or to learn how to draw an axis, or particular elements that we can work with, right? Even the value is affected by this, right? When I talk about materials, right, and textures, we're not yet there. We're gonna start just with line, but so far I think when we have materials and when we have things like drapes or pieces of cloth, we are learning like the way it interacts with other things, right? It is not the same if I have this like this way flat, but still with a lot of volume. Let's see that here we have, for example, the crease that is marked because they were like stored, folded, right? But also, if I wanted to add like some volume to it, I just lift it a little bit and then I have a kind of volume there, right? If I wanted to, I don't know, like make it interact with other stuff, with other textures and with maybe something softer, I could do this, right? And I would already have like a volume where I could interact, or where I could make my elements interact with each other, right? So this way we have like creases, we have the light affecting them, we have differences in value, we have differences in volume, and we have differences in depth too, depending, like if you look at the things that are like maybe here in the back, they can be different from the things that are right in the front, right? And I brought these elements just to make like some setups, because I think it's better to start drawing objects. First of all, objects don't move, right? Objects barely change. Maybe an apple won't change in one day, maybe in a week or so. But yeah, they give us time. They are still there. So they're useful for that reason. So that is the reason we always start with objects. And we can arrange them interacting with each other in many ways. That is the main use for the still lifes as I don't know, like as a tool for drawing when you're starting. We don't start with rules, like learning how, I don't know, like what's the specific proportion between the eyes and the nose in a portrait. We start learning the different things that we have at our disposal, right? For example, let's look at this funny skull that we have here. I think it's like a piggy bank. We have the hole in here, but it has a ton of elements, and all of those elements are related to each other depending of how I present them, right? So if I turn it here, it is a different thing. If I turn it over here, it is a different thing. And if you see the back of it, it is totally different. What if I put it like this? It's not the same. It's almost flat, right? So when we have more complex shapes, we need to understand how they work, and we need to understand like the relationship between the elements. For that, we have some tricks in order to understand like the ellipses or the circles that are projected in the perspective, right? Or how to draw the proportions, how to make something symmetric. What happens when something that is symmetric doesn't appear symmetric because of our point of view? There are many things that we can use these props for. And I think it is important for the setup to be arranged in a way that is interesting and that is also helping you understand like the relations between the elements in terms of distance, in terms of depth, materials, value, and scale. So for example, how can we make these things interact, right? We need to have a difference in terms of space. We need to have a difference in terms of depth and the shapes that we have. So maybe arranging this in this way can help me, I don't know, can help me like understand the relationships between the elements that I have. Maybe not all of the things in the bowl are interesting for me right now, but also I can use the different materials that I have to get like coordinates, or to get like I don't know, like directions, or to get like how the dynamics of these objects is. So maybe arranging something like this, right? And moving it over here, maybe to this side. I can build something that is interesting. What are the main factors that I have? I think I need to get elements that are interacting with each other, that are balanced, and that have like different materials. So when you see them, you get like reference points, right? For example, this one would be like a very interesting reference point right here. This one would work as part of the frame. We can move it further, and that way we would have like a corner of the drawing. We also need to understand how to make them clear, how to make them work without them like being in the way of each other, right? So that's like one way to use that. Yeah, so I can use them in different ways, and I can find relations between them when we are building our setups. I think you can build a setup with anything that you have in your house. You can build your setup with, I don't know, nice decorations that you have at home. Maybe interesting things. Remember, don't just put like a bunch of, I don't know, like creams and deodorants that are totally cylinders next to each other, because you're not getting a nice setup. You need to have a relationship between different elements with different shapes. You have to make them have a distance between each other, maybe having different textures, right? I made this one fold. And they have to be in balance. So like this one right here was in balance. And when I say they have to be in balance, I'm not saying like they have to be like floating around or something. I'm saying that they must be balanced so you can spend a couple of days drawing them. That is something useful and interesting if you arrange something useful and interesting at home. Maybe you have, I don't know, like a bronze deer or a sculpture at home that is interesting and that is not too complex. I wouldn't start like with action figures, or I wouldn't start with, I don't know, cars or stuff like that. I would start with simple shapes that we can arrange, right? We need to have the basic shapes that I will talk about in a couple of lessons, right? We need to have ellipses, we need to have lines, we need to have circles, we need to have straight lines every once in a while. We need to have a difference in textures, things that can fold, right? Things that you can fold, like cloth, or I don't know, maybe paper, right? Or whatever else. We need to have a difference in materials, distance, depth, and shape. As I was saying before, and as I have said 3 times so far in this lesson. So yeah, think about it. Think about how to make your own setup interesting, and how to keep it there, right? When you're drawing it without moving it. Maybe using it for a couple of days, maybe just working around them, and that would help you like making a very interesting picture that you can draw and analyze, right? So don't hesitate to bring whatever you have around, as long as it makes it interesting, okay? All right, that's it. I hope you can experiment with the things that you can draw at home, and I hope that you find interesting objects to draw. And that's it. Thank you very much. All right, so before we start drawing, I would like to do a couple of warm-up activities, some exercises that everyone should do before drawing, because sometimes we start drawing and we're absolutely clunky, while some other times we start drawing and make the best drawings ever and we don't know why. So it is very useful to have our muscle memory. a little bit warmed up before we start drawing. And usually it comes up to be like working and making lines and squiggles and exercising our hands and fingers. Remember, depending on the kind of drawing that we're making, we are going to be exercising different joints. For example, whenever we're working on a mural, we are exercising our shoulder, right? In this particular format, I think our elbow can be exercised, right? But when we're drawing in a tiny sketchbook, we might tend to do this. And this is what we want to avoid, because this is a very short range. This only using like your index finger and your thumb, you're going to have like a very short range and it's not going to be very useful for you. So what I recommend is like warm up first and try to hold the pencil in different ways. Before we start, I would like to do something that it is absolutely unnecessary. We don't need to do that right now, but I want to show you what are we going to do for the next classes that we will have. The first thing that we should do is tape the paper. So I'm going to take a little measure here. This is enough, right? We're going to hold the paper still in our format. And I'm going to use this to hold the paper still. We don't want to create a lot of creases in here. But this is what you should do whenever you're drawing outdoors, right? Let me see if everything is correct. Oh, this one's too long. I mean too short. So I should go with this side. Right? And maybe is this one too short? Yeah, it is too short. I'll get rid of it. And I'll put the one at the top. Yeah, this is enough. Why should we do this? We aren't working in a very demanding format yet, but it's gonna be useful when we're working, for example, with toned paper. For example, when we're working with other kinds of drawings, using values, sometimes it is important. So far, it's just to show you that at some points you gotta tape the paper. This is a bond folder, which is used for bookmaking, right, or book binding. But I'm putting it here because I want to have a little bit of pressure and because I want it to be fancy with it. Okay, so here we have our paper, right, completely attached to the board. We have a little bit of volume here. I wanted to get rid of this. Okay. We shouldn't handle the paper a lot with our hands. We should avoid that. Now, how do we start? So there are many ways to hold the pencil, and some people talk about, like, some teachers talk about like holding it like this. Some other artists talk about holding it like the longest way possible, right? If your drawing's like by standing in a standing position, I think it is useful and it shows like what you can do if you use it like this, right? Other people like to hold it a little bit shorter, but in this case, we're going to use it in between a writing position and drawing position, for like in case we were like with an easel standing up. So I would like to start by drawing lines, right? I would like to start with straight lines, right? Maybe not using a lot of support, maybe just using our own hand, right? I'm trying to have a straight line. If you see these warm-up activities, I'm wondering like what am I moving, right? Am I moving my shoulder? Am I moving my elbow? You can see that I drink a lot of coffee right here. So you can see that it trembles quite a bit. Don't worry if your straight lines are not that straight. This is just a warm-up activity. I sometimes go back and try to fill the space, right? I'm not going all the way down, but now I am. Maybe trying to go backwards just to see how it works. Hey, try to keep your spine straight while doing this so you don't hunch a lot. Now I made this little line here. Maybe I can continue it and try to make a grid. As I have more movement with my hand in a horizontal position, right? As I have more movement range, I can make like straighter lines in the second part. Or maybe it's because my muscles are being warmed up. I don't know. Maybe it is. So yeah, so far this is the way it's going. Sometimes, as I was saying, I go back and I try to put a line in between, make it a little bit finer. My goal is like not getting over the edge here. I have divided this in 4 squares and I don't want to get too far over the edge. So yeah. So that's the first one. What is the second activity that we can make? The second activity that we can make is actually working with circles, maybe. We'll try to go like this. Oh no, like squiggles, right? Try to make them. You see that they are kind of clumsy? Well, it's because I'm using my elbow for this. I'm not using my wrist. I'm not using my fingers a lot. I'm going all the way from my elbow. And that is the reason I don't have a lot of movement or precision in here, right? But if I wanted to use just my fingers, that would be like way easier. There's something that comes like from calligraphy, which is like trying to do this like S shape over and over, right? And try to change the size. For example, I can shrink it and then make it bigger. Or I can work with spirals too. Trying to be precise. I could like rest my hand in here outside of the board, but that's gonna be dangerous when I'm drawing with values. So I want to have my hand lifted here and try to make like a more or less precise spiral. Oh, right now I'm using a B pencil, so yeah, there's that. I could go for some squiggles over here. Make a margin maybe. I'm not trying to make a composition work. I'm just like trying to exercise my hand working with spirals and squiggles, right? For example, I can work with the spiral over here, taking into account the space that I have surrounding my spiral, given that I already gave it a frame. Or yeah, here we can make like another spiral. Okay, they overlapped a little bit. We can try to go backwards from periphery to center. We can also go like this. And there you are. Okay, yeah, we have a spiral square over here. So what should we do in the next rectangle? Maybe circles, right? For this one, I'm gonna change my pencil because like why not? Why shouldn't we change our pencil? So I'm gonna stop using this one and I'm gonna use maybe a shorter lead pencil. It's 4B, so it's more visible to you. So in this one, what I'm trying to do is a circle, right? But I'm trying that the circle is not that irregular. Look, this one has a little belly over here. I'm gonna try to be as precise as I can. Within the shape of a circle. If I repeat the motion, I might get closer because as long as I'm repeating, the hand gets like this automatized movement. But if I want to be more precise and if I want to be demanding with my own hand, I can do a couple of them and then go back and try to go with only one line, try to make a circle. So as you can see, there's a couple achievements there, but at the same time, there's many failures before. But this is just a warm-up. Oh, look at this circle. It's like not perfect at all. This one's more or less. I can keep going here. And if I keep going, as I was saying, I'm gonna get closer to the shape of a real circle. Why? Because I'm repeating the same motion. It's like a matter of coordinates, right? Same here. Okay, that's good. So for the last part, of this sheet, maybe in some other sheet we can make like other stuff. But in this one, I would like to go with squares. What do you mean squares? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, rectangles to say so. This one's a square. It's a little bit closer to a square. Look, we are not taking care of like the way it works, like the edges. We don't want to have perfect corners, but we do try to get like maybe lines that are a little bit more like more straight than the other ones. You see, this one's like wobbly, but in comparison to the first that we made, they are way better. So we shouldn't complain. One trick that I'm trying to work at here is that I'm working with the pencil a little bit in an oblique position. And that way I have more range, because if I have like the finer point of the pencil, like the finer part, of course my mistakes are going to be way more visible. Look, if I move my elbow and I work like smaller, I'm gonna have like better squares. Meanwhile, if I only move my fingers or my wrist, well, I was gonna say that they would be worse, but I guess I'm getting warmed up, as I was saying. We can work inside, we can have different shapes. We can overlap them, right? And this way we are going to have like a little more muscle memory to see the rest of to make like some other shapes while we are drawing in our serious drawing or any sketch, right? Because if we do this, we are going to get more control over the paper or over the surface that we're working with. So let's tape another one. Why not? I mean, let's tape another piece of paper here. I think this one, I hope this one goes a little better. So I can have some distance here and I can spread the paper without any problem. That's better than the last one. So let's do that. Another piece of tape. This one's like precise. It's like the exact size of a paper. Let's go with another one. I won't even use like the bone folder this time. I think this is good enough. Yeah, I don't have a lot of volume here. Let's tape this side. It doesn't have to be like a straight margin. I mean, yeah, I think it's good. Okay, this time I won't divide it with a ruler like the last time. I would divide this using my elbow as the main axis. So, how can we continue? Well, a good way to continue with the warm-up activities is trying to get volume and precision. There's one that I love, which is trying to work with ellipses. And you might say, okay, but why? Well, let's try to find the cross inside of the ellipses, right? Let's try to find the two axes, the one that goes here, the one that goes here, right? Like trying to find two midpoints for the depth of the ellipses. This is going to be so useful later that you will notice like these activities, yeah, has a purpose. Let's see, whoa, got it. And this is the midpoint. Yeah, it's a midpoint. Why not? Let's go with a bigger one. Let's go with this axis. Whoa, totally wonky, but yeah, okay, that's good. Look at this belly that we got here. Right, we're getting closer to the middle of the ellipses. Hey, I made another one, but later we will learn what is that. Okay, that's good. So what else can we do? Let's go with this space over here, this little square. Let's try to make squares. Maybe cubes, why not? But let's try not to draw them like that. This is the way I learned how to draw. I learned to draw cubes when I was in school. But what if we go like this? What if we go in a different way? What if we try to make cubes that are, hey, look at this. This doesn't come from the edge. That are extruded in another way, right? Okay, let's What if we try to maybe some cube that is like this, and we see the other side over here, and we have this side going here, right? So all these are wonky, but at least I'm trying to get like shapes and volumes out of this, right? Another one is just try to make cylinders. This is like the base of the explanation, right? Which is that ellipses make cylinders. And if we try to draw them in different ways, we're gonna learn how they work. I'm not focusing on structure, I'm focusing on contour, and we will have a couple activities regarding contour. If I wanted to focus on structure, I would find the axis of both ellipses and just join them with straight lines. But I'm trying to find something else. I'm trying to find like the contour of a cylinder as a shape. We can also change its size, right? We can also change its length. I'm cheating here. I was resting my hand on top of a paper, and that's absolutely a way to stain your hand. Not that that's bad, but yeah, it is better when you're freehand drawing, right? Okay, maybe I can even shorten it and make like a tiny cylinder over here, or maybe start with the basis and then try to find like the other side, right? Yeah, I think that works. That way you can like train some shapes. And let me tell you, like these shapes that we're drawing here are going to be super useful as volumes, as like I don't know, like you are always going to use cubes as references. You're always going to use cylinders as references. A bottle is a bunch of cylinders, and then there's this. Are we drawing circles again? No, I'm trying to find spheres, maybe. Just find a sphere with like an ellipsis for the diameter, right? Look at this, this looks bad. I should use like something better. This one went well. Yeah, I think that's good. We can also try to find maybe the axis for the sphere, right? If you want to do it quickly, if you want to do it slowly, whatever you want. The thing that we're trying to do is to warm up our hand when we're drawing. Oh, this is almost an egg. Should go in the other one, in the ellipsis one. Okay, what about this one? Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So remember, if you're going to start drawing, it's always useful to warm up. Sometimes that might be the reason we are not we're getting like clunky or clumsy with our drawings. So yeah, it's always a good recommendation. And it doesn't have to be this necessarily. You can also draw mazes. You can also draw I don't know, shapes, not particularly complex shapes, but something that can help you understand shapes or get your hand used to shapes before drawing. As I was saying, they can be mazes, they can be bottles, they can be patterns, right? Like that repeat along the page, right? So that's it. Thank you very much and see you in the next lesson. I would like to start with this lesson by making it clear that there are many, many, many ways to draw. And there are many approaches to drawing, right? You can see people that is absolutely interested in getting into in depth with anatomy, for example, a character designer, you can see that there are people who are very invested in the schematic element of geometry in their art, right? But at the same time, we have like different methodologies that are usually, I mean, they're common in different places. When I went to the United States to study my MFA, I was surprised because they learned drawing in another way, right? For example, I can say that the way anatomy was taught to me was way different, was more intuitive. Or the way perspective was taught to me, it was also like very different. Actually, for example, perspective was taught to me by a friend after I finished school because I needed to polish like, those skills for comics backgrounds or that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, there's many ways. I wanted to have like a fun lesson before we get into shapes. I have like this mechanical pencil over here. You can see it, right? And I wanted to show you like there's many ways that I have seen, and you can use them, you can implement them. The only thing that I would say is let's start by observing what we have in front of us, right? That's the key point to our class. I know I tend to draw from memory, I tend to draw from imagination, but let's start like by thinking that we have to observe, right? For example, something that we can do sometimes, and we will do an exercise, is focusing on the contour, not even getting worried about the shapes, right? Like here. And having the contour, we are going to have like some clues about how shapes work and some mistakes. Don't get me wrong, we are definitely get a lot of mistakes, but that can help us, right? For example, right here, as I'm gonna go meta with this lesson, so I'm gonna draw the camera that we are filming with, right? What's wrong with this? A lot of stuff. It is not symmetric. It is not detailed at all. The perspective is very, very wonky. I only made like one reference line. I mean, two. The other one was later. But the thing is that we can focus on the contour, right? We can also try to sculpt the figure or the shape that we're working with as an activity, right? We can try to get I don't know, or mango from, try to locate it inside of a cube, right? Try to chisel out the elements that are not in that cube, or prism in this case, right? And try to carve it out as the main shape, getting rid of the extra elements which are in the cube, right? I don't have a name for this. Maybe like try to sculpt volumes. We can also measure, and we will have a lesson about measuring, about thinking, for example, with the camera, like thinking, oh, wait, if I measure with a stick, right, that I have in here, if I measure with the stick, well, maybe the camera's lens is a little bit bigger than I thought, right? Maybe it is 2/3 of the camera, right? And the other elements that we have around are more simple. Maybe I can focus on measuring and shapes. Maybe I can go crazy with the shapes and think of the things that I have around. and just simplify the shapes. And there's many artists who do this constantly, right? They have an ellipse for the plate, for the bowl, I mean. I have a base here. I will teach you how to do this later because I think we have a weird cylinder over here, right? I chose to have this as a base. And I can think of a triangle for the mango. I can also think of a semicircle that is a little bit extruded for the banana, right? And there's just a simple shaped curve for the apple. And that way, I have simple shapes. I can also think in terms of negative space, right? I can also think what is outside of the shape. Let me find a frame for this one, I think, with the camera. Again, let's go out of the picture, right? And let's think of what is not around. So I'm sculpting the shape from the background, right? I'm thinking of what is not the shape. And it is very important. You can use it as a reference. We are going to see how important negative space can be, right? For example, I didn't focus on the shape of the lens. I focused on how there was a curve outside, right? Negative space, right? I can focus maybe on the value, but that is like focusing on value is like understanding that there are things that get like a silhouette. It's almost like focusing on contour, right? And understanding that some of the things are more are darker than the others, or some are lighter, right? I'm working with one of the likes that we have, right? So using value. But this is way closer to the painting mindset, and I don't want to get too much over there. I mean, I won't get too much onto anything in here, maybe for some exercises and activities. But yeah, I wanted to show like there's so many different approaches. For example, we have simplification methods. We understand that the shape that we have in front of us is a circle, so we reproduce that circle, and then we have like another square over here. We round the edges of the square. We get into another circle over here, and then we ignore absolutely the perspective that we have. We only have eyes for simple shapes that are right in front of us. So the mic can be maybe like a little squiggly circle, right? We can have an actual squiggle for the cable that the mic is connected to. We can have an oblique line, right? And that's how sometimes cartoons work, just simplifying. Or I can call it synthesis. Why not? It sounds synthesis. That's the way where I don't know. I saw a meme in the internet like not so long ago, in which there was like this photorealistic person, right? And then next to it, they said like, okay, this is how amateurs work, right? But when we simplify, we are getting to synthesize like so many things, such as value, symmetry, the point of view. Look at this 3/4 point of view, like it's almost sideways, but it's not. The hair is not like every single hair is just like a chunk that we have here, right? We can use that for cartoons and simplification, right? But the thing is, with this method, we have to we develop like, how to say that, like bad habits or habits, just not to label them as good or bad. So when we're cartooning and when we learn all of that, we just have habits, and we have like templates for eyes and templates for noses and templates for I don't know, things that are not looking straight at us in a fully frontal position, we have to make them look like they're right in front of us, right? We have to use like different methods. So what we are trying to do now, I think, in this course will be learning to observe. And then once we learn how to observe and how to draw from observation, we can actually, I don't know, like use some methods in which we have particular formulas or particular shortcuts, such as in perspective and anatomy, which are very important, right? So when we draw perspective and anatomy, not all of the times we know where is which bone or which muscle, but we get close to it and we learn about simplification and how to simplify a shape that we can use. And that's what is valid, and that's the way we learn. Same goes with perspective, which is very hard in my opinion. And perspective is just a simplification of organizational line, or of how we draw and how we get the proportions of certain elements. So that's mainly like the way we draw. We just observe. Maybe when we have the elements and when we have observed enough, and when we know how to deal with proportions, and when we know how to deal with line, and when we know how to deal with value and depth, then we can get into some other stuff or create our own shortcuts. You know something, there was like the way I learned in school, the way I learned anatomy was like this. You get the first thing you get for a quick anatomy sketch is the column, the spine, and after that you know that it's half and half, and that way you have a full body with proportions, right? It is a shortcut. No, it doesn't always work, because you gotta know how to locate the spine and how long should the legs be. But yeah, sometimes it is just intuitive, right? And that's it. Okay, thank you very much, and I hope you like this lesson, even if it was just for fun. We are going to start to get into shapes in the next lesson. All right, thank you very much.
Hi there! Congrats on getting this far! I hope you're enjoying this tutorial and already starting to see great results. If you want to check out the extended version of the course, head to skillademia.com, where you will find the full beginner to advanced drawing course with more than 70 lectures and many more techniques to learn. Now, let's continue.
All right, so in the last lesson, we talked a little bit about different ways of drawing using this mechanical pencil, because I wanted to vary a little bit, because, you know, we can draw with whatever we want. And the main thing was that usually we need to understand how the things that we have in front of us work. And for that, we have the basic shapes. In this lesson, I would like to talk about the basic shapes and what their role is when we're drawing, because not all of the time we do that, right? Not all of the time we understand, like, what are we doing? Sometimes we just get like formulas or habits from other authors, or we just copy the things, and then we don't have like a way of understanding like the angles and the kind of shapes or lines that we have. During this whole part of the class, we will spend like many lessons without even getting into value. We are just going to start working with line and understanding line, but given that, we can also try to understand like how can we make line work, and how can we understand like the little elements of geometry that we have when we're working with this kind of drawing, right? So if you saw like geometry, or if you study geometry at school, you will see that there's like shapes, right? And we have like polyhedra, and then we have like cubes and cylinders and all that kind of stuff. There's one thing. depending of what we're drawing, not all of them are going to be as important, right? Sometimes it's just like lines and ellipses. Sometimes it's just like circles and squares. And sometimes it's even like just the relationship between very simple shapes that are in a space which has a lot of variations in terms of value, for example, right? We can see that there's I don't know, like maybe a cube in a dark room, or maybe a sphere in a dark room, or maybe just drawing something that has a lot of contrast. Can look complex in terms of value, but in terms of shapes, it's very simple, right? We can also get like the kind of a geometrization of the world, right? Like simplifying geometry in every single space, but it doesn't always work like that. So my advice would be we better observe what we have in front of us and identify simple shapes. For example, the best element that we have, it doesn't have to be straight, it doesn't have to be curved, it's the line, right? I wonder if you have read the plain the I don't know what's the translation in English, but yeah, the book by Vasily Kandinsky, plain. I think it's like plain dot in the space or line and dot in the space. If you have seen those, or of the spiritual in the art, you can see that Kandinsky actually speculated a lot about the line and how the line influences, or the shapes influence the feeling of a drawing, right? And there's also something super important, that it's the ellipse. The two first things that I mentioned, right? The ellipse is going to be so useful. Why? Why don't we go straight up with a circle that is perfect and it's round and it has a formula for its area and its diameter? Well, the ellipse is like a projected circle. So whenever we have to draw a bowl or a bottle or anything actually that is curved, the ellipse is going to help us to understand how it works. So very important to understand like ellipses, right? And very important to understand circles too, right? Circles can be useful for many things. Not everything is a circle. We can actually like understand that they have bumps. Maybe in when we're drawing like an apple is not a circle, right? An apple's like, it has bumps and volumes, right? And yeah, parts where the shape has like holes or depressions, or we don't actually have to make everything like perfectly round, but it is helpful. It is helpful to understand if we have a regular shape. For us, it is easier to understand like where the center is, right? And if we get the center, we can start like measuring and having and calculating like portions of the space that we are working with, right? As I was saying, we also have squares and triangles. Those are predictable in a drawing class, but as I was saying, we are not always using them, and whenever we see them, we rarely see them facing us, like right in front of, as if we were in front of a 2D plane. They're always a little bit extruded, they're always a little bit irregular. Even like boxes and cubes and stuff, they have their irregularities, so we can understand how they work, or in context while we're observing, right? How to get these relations and how to get the way they're working or their asymmetries. Well, organizational line, which is something that we are going to study, is a method in which we can find the relationships between things using lines and trying to project lines that are going to show us the shape. Also, getting some frames. What is a frame? A frame is let's think that what we did with the mango drawing last time, which was like very random. but we can have frames for different things, right? Not even cubic frames, like actually like a frame for a picture, so we don't go out of the picture. For example, have you noticed, like, whenever someone's drawing, I don't know, like in a piece of paper, a person, and then they start drawing and the feet are out of the paper. They didn't calculate that. So sometimes when we use a frame, we have like a margin, like a border that we cannot cross inside of a drawing. So a frame can help us, right? And in terms of volumes, I think something very, very important. I think we will have some cylinders, right? Look at the cylinder. It is inclined, like this circle, this base is inclined. It is not regular, but it's helpful to understand how they work, right? For example, we have cubes. Again, I didn't draw a very precise cube. It is not even regular, so it's a prism, I guess. Those are important. Spheres. Spheres are important, right? Why are they important? Should we know how to take the area from this, how to measure it? Well, not so much. We have to understand, like, how they work interacting with each other, and how and where are they present, right? For example, if we are drawing like I'm thinking right now of a cable surrounding a tripod, right? Now that we are here. If you have a cable, we totally understand that this is a cylinder, a very long one, right? And the way the ellipses behave have to do with height and perspective. We will see that way later. Now, if there's a cable surrounding it, what we usually would think is, okay, let's keep the width of the cable along the drawing, right? We can keep the width, why not? But we have to understand that this cable also has a volume, right? And is working in a certain way, right? So if we think it has a volume, we might think of it as a very, very irregular cylinder, right? And we might even locate the ellipses or the bases that we have there. They might be round all the time. They might measure the same all the time. So even if we have like a piece of rope, right, that is extruded towards us, right, or that comes from the background, we notice like a difference in width, right, because it's looking towards us, or it's coming from the background towards us, towards the foreground, I mean. Yeah, so that's going to be useful, and that's going to be helpful for us, right? I don't know, when we see anatomy, right? How does the head work if we are thinking about it, right? How can we simplify it with some shapes before we understand the way that particular face is working in the case of a portrait, or in the case of, I don't know, like drawing someone or sketching in the bus, whatever you're doing, yeah? So thinking of like, okay, so it's like shaped like a whistle. That I learned that from another online teacher, like the famous whistle shape of the cranium with the jawbone, right? Or how does it work? Are we going to take into account the zygomatics as like the main bones? Or are we just thinking of a box and the sphere, right? Well, let's not call this cube. Let's call it box, right? The box is one of our favorite shapes. So there's many ways in which we can work with basic shapes and understand how they work, right? Thinking of, okay, we have lines, we have cylinders, maybe cylinders, spheres, lines, ellipses, squares, circles, that can be cut in half and have semicircles. Why not? We also have triangles, and we can make them work in different ways. So remember when I was like drawing the ball with the banana? That we have like a I'm gonna try to do something very, yeah, like it was a semi-sphere, and then here we have like another thing. So we can identify like the shapes of it, or we can just identify its width by locating the ellipses inside, and then understanding the actual shape and reducing things and taking things out, right? But always following like a basic shape that we have, because basic shapes are going to help us, right? Even if you're exaggerating, even if you're thinking of cartoons, or even if you're thinking of synthesizing the drawings or caricatures, what they do is just like exaggerate some basic shapes that we have in our drawing, and accommodate them or arrange them in the space, in the surface of the plane that we have. We will talk a little bit more about the concepts that we have, but yeah, this is something that I wanted to make clear. Like, that's the reason we warm up with basic shapes. That's the reason we don't go straight into gesture, right? Or we don't go straight into value or something, because we need to understand like the structure of the thing. And after we get the structure of the thing, we can handle like some details, or arrange like the proportions, or arrange the perspective, or the depth, right? Or yeah, and leave the details for the end. But if the structure is good, and if the basic elements that we have are good and are correct, or effective for the thing that you want to communicate in your drawing, I think that is way better if we work like that. Okay, so yeah, I didn't bring like anything weird. We are going to see that we have other shapes or other suggested shapes. We can have irregularities within all of this. I would say like even like, wow, like when we have a square, right? We can have it like with like a trapezoid shape, as I was saying. We can have them projected. We can like twitch them, or we can like modify them in certain ways, and we can play with their symmetry. We can play with the way they look. We can play with the angles that we have. But other than that, I think that's like the basic, and we are going to use it most of the time. So yeah, be careful with that, and try to find like the shapes. Something that I can recommend is like try sketching something, but locating some shapes, right? I don't know, maybe at home you're drawing, I don't know, like a bowl of fruit like this, hopefully real fruit, and you can actually find the shapes. Like, is this a sphere? Depends of your point of view. Is this a semicircle? From my point of view, it is a semicircle. It is not a triangle, or it's not like a pointy shape. I think it's even more pointy, the mango that I have there. It is like a half moon. The apple that I have there is like a semicircle, but it's like a little bit pointy in relationship with the rest of the elements that I have there. So that's something that you can do at home. Okay, so why if I look at the pencil like this, it is just like like a circle, or like a small cylinder. Meanwhile, if I put it like this, it's like a big line, right, with a triangle in the end. So try to find the shapes in the things that you're drawing. Try to separate the elements and to simplify them the most, so you can understand how they work, right? So you can look at them and see like, okay, so maybe my hand is just a circle or a square with a bunch of triangles, or maybe it's a bunch of lines that I have to give width to, right? So yeah, do that at home, practice, try to find some shapes, and then we will get into details. Okay, thank you very much. Welcome to the drawing course. Today we will talk about measuring and why is that important. First, have you ever seen someone drawing in the street or I don't know at all, and then making some gestures with their hands or maybe with their fingers or maybe with a stick or a pencil? Well, that is measuring, and that is something that we do to, I don't know, to boost our proportions, to make them better, right? We usually do that. We just don't think particularly well enough about how are we working with them, right? Sometimes we just try to make the things work and try to hold our proportions right. So there's different ways, right? There's different things that we can use, and I think usually the best thing that we could do would be to draw standing. For that, we would need an easel, right? We would need a space, a studio, but we don't have that. I mean, do you? Maybe you do. We would need an easel to be standing, but the first thing that we would need for that would be to have a good posture. Look at that. So it is very different from observational drawing artists to digital artists. Like the difference in posture, right? You have seen like people drawing in Cintiqs or tablet displays like this, right? And then just like copying the whole thing. Well, that's a matter of posture. Our body is not very precise, right? Our muscles are not graduated like a tripod or like a machine. We cannot say like, oh, let's make a 45-degree angle with my forearm so I can get like this distance, right? Or I don't know like how many centimeters am I holding my fingers to right now. So those things are not very trustable, but they are the main tools that we have because we are our bodies, right? In that sense, we can do some things. As I was saying, the first thing would be posture. Have a straight posture if you're going to draw. Why? If you have a straight posture, your eye level is not going to change. If you sit straight, you see, right, like this, I can turn around, right? And you see that your body is being in the same posture. Meanwhile, if you slouch, you can slouch in many different ways, right? You can slouch like this and have a different eye level. You can slouch like this and have like another eye level. Meanwhile, if you sit straight, you know how are you sitting straight. It's something more uniform, right? Now, that's the first thing, posture. Is it wrong if I don't have a good posture? It is not. Just what I'm trying to give you is the correct eye level, right? An eye level that you can trust, okay? To say like, okay, this is the eye level I'm working at, and now I can trust my eyes to do this, right? Second thing, when you're measuring something, when you're trying to get like a precise measure, it is better to hold your arm straight. Don't bend it, right? That's something that you can do. Like not bend your arm is I guess a good advice, right? Now, in terms of measuring techniques, we can use maybe our finger, right? Our thumb. Have you seen that? People being like this when they are measuring something. Well, our thumb is not very trustable. It has two segments. They are almost equal, right? If you see like there's one and there's two segments and that's it. And it's kind of thick, so we don't have a lot to do with them. Some other people can use a pencil to measure, right? For example, if I'm saying something, I can do this. My arm is totally stretched out, right? I'm not bending it. Why am I not bending it? Because if I bend it even a little, what is the difference between this and this? A lot in terms of proportions, because I'm getting a translation from the proportions of the things that I have in front of me into the pencil, right? So yeah, take that into account. If you have been in an I don't know, like a drawing class in an art school, or even in, I don't know, some other online course, sometimes people recommend using a stick, just a stick for measuring. Why? A stick is thin, it doesn't have any other function than measuring, and it reminds you to measure, right? You're not gonna write with it because it's a stick, so you can do this, right? And that way you can get the proportions right. Okay, so that's it. Sit straight, your arms straight, and that's it, right? Now, what else can you do? What else should you do when you're measuring for your drawing from observation? We usually have maybe three kinds of portions that we are going to use, right? For example, we use halves, we use thirds, and we use like the entire element, right? That's the unit. So we use, I'm gonna put in my notebook. I know it sounds like silly, but yeah, we use one, then a half, then a third. Well, do we use fourths and sixths and like tiny sections, tenths? Yeah, we can, but these are our main points of reference, you know, like if it's a fifth, so try to find a relation between the things, right? If because this is like it's better, it is easier, right? For example, if I'm drawing something and I don't know, I find like a very precise way to measure it. I can measure it in relation to other things, right? For example, I don't know, like thinking that the fingers are a half of the hand, right? A little bit more. I don't know, depends on the hand. But thinking of that, then I can divide each finger in thirds. And that is more useful because I have a precise way to measure my fingers if I'm going to draw them. So yeah, that's one of the clues that we have for measuring. Okay, and now I will proceed to make a drawing or make a little sketch. I'm not going to draw like I have my sketchbook, and if I have my sketchbook, that means I'm gonna make a sketch or a sketchbook activity, which we will have later. But yeah, let's make a sketch. So in front of me, I have like a vase with a couple pieces of cloth, and let's see, yeah, like a couple of rags and some polyhedra. I'm sorry, and they are there arranged in a random way. The first thing that I want to try to make is to find like relationships between them and make a mark over here, right? So what I'm seeing right now is that the vase is more than half of the picture. I mean, it's like 2/3, right? The whole space of the vase. Now, horizontally, the only measure that I have is the chair or the stool where everything is resting on. And in that stool, I can see that it is, yeah, it's like the relationship is very similar, to be honest. It's like we have like the vase is half of the space of the stool, but it's right in the middle. So those are two clues that I have for that. In this case, I would like to make a frame. Why is the frame important? Because if we don't make a frame, I have repeated this in other lessons. If we don't make a frame, we are not going to have like an edge for the picture, and it helps us define a picture plane. I will explain what a picture plane is later, but the clue for that is, a hint would be, a picture plane is what you want to draw, right? I mean, if your eyes, your sight doesn't have an end. Like you look to the top, you move your eyes upwards, and then you start seeing more things. When we have drawing, we have a finite space. It's limited, right? And we want to limit it. So the first thing that we do is a frame. I'm going to start with a frame. I'm going to use what is this? Like a B pencil? I should go with an HB, but yeah, why not? Let's go with a B. Now with this B pencil, I made like a square. Well, like a rectangle. What should I do with this? I don't know. Maybe using soft and loose lines, right, for my drawing. And trying to define a little bit better the picture. Maybe having it like this. So let's see. This space is like a fourth of the whole thing. You don't have to make numbers. You can make them in your mind, but I'm making them just so you understand like the logic of this. So this is a fourth of the space. Let me see. I'm gonna take the stick again. So yeah, I think the cloth is more than a fourth. The cloth that is resting in the stool is more than a fourth of the thing. So yeah. Yeah, I think I won't do the whole thing. I will cut my frame a little bit shorter so I can have like the stool maybe in this space, right? And I can have a general shape for all of this, right? I'm not trying to be precise. I'm trying to define what goes where. Now, if I look at the thing, I see that in this frame, what we're having right now is that let me see. This is like 2/3 above. So there's another third in here. I have to be very precise, a little bit more precise. And all the way up here, it goes the sticks that come out of the base, right? So what happens in the second third? Maybe in the second third we have a lot of action in the second third, to be honest, right? But I would like to define the edges better, because I saw that this is like half of the space is the base, right? So I'm not gonna take them all the way down here, but I know that over here we have the base. We are just like working with lines. I will tell you later what is that method that I'm using, because that's like a very useful method in general. It's where everything comes from. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, I think we can have like a diagonal here, right, in the second third, and I will have that as a mark, right? Now, second third, and in the third third, we'll start with the cube, right? Maybe it goes like this here, and in this little space we have the pyramid. We can change this and shift it all the time, right? That's the good thing about like starting with soft and loose lines, right? So we have this here, and I think this goes like over here, right? So over here in this space we have the vase. Now there's a problem here, right? We have this thing shifting over here, right? So we need to see what is the actual length of it, because we have an ellipse and it is a little bit slanted. So what we are seeing now is that this goes all the way down here, right? I'm right in the, almost in the middle. It's not all the way down, but yeah, it's almost in the middle of a stool. We have like these creases and shifts in the cloth, right? I'm trying to sketch. I'm not being precise. I'm not making like a final drawing. I'm not thinking of the perspective of the ellipse. What I'm doing is just like trying to find out the relationships between the things, right? I know it sounds like slow and difficult, but it is what it is, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to do when we're drawing. So let's see, do we have another measure that is going to be useful for us? Absolutely, yes. We know already that this little stick, I mean, it's not little, it's going to go all the way beyond the frame that we made, right? I wonder if its orientation is good, because I'm thinking it's a little bit less slanted. So I'm gonna use this, right? And this one can be a little bit more slanted. Let's see. Let's see what the relationship is between this and that. Okay, now I get it. This one is related with this. I mean, this edge over here is related to this. This is part of something that is called organizational line. I'm not being super precise and academic about it, but I mean, I'm not like that, but yeah, I can develop like a couple more relations in here, right? And point out a couple more elements. And what about this? What if I find something like another relationship, like in this vertical line over here? I'm saying that this pyramid that I made here is not quite in here. It's a little bit closer to this edge. All right, okay. So something that I do whenever I need to get rid of like a lot of value in the drawing, I'm gonna open this body here. Something that I do when I need to get rid of like value, for example, I started this drawing for the sake of filming. I started this drawing with a B. I mean, I also like using B's. I'm not very fond of the H. I know they're more precise. I know they can work better sometimes, but yeah. So I'm gonna get a little piece of kneaded eraser, right, over here. And I'm gonna get rid of things that I don't need that much. I'm using it softly. I could do this too, to lower the value a little bit, to make it a little bit brighter. Why? Because I wanna start like pointing out the things that are not structural. I wanna go with more important, no, like more visible stuff, right? Like I want to make my drawing to be a little bit more effective communicating what I have in front of me. For example, this doesn't go here. I don't want to use this one. Let's, oh, I had a 6H, look at me. So let's go with the 6B, the darkest one. Well, one of the darkest ones. So if I want to point out some things here, I can point out, for example, this crease, right? I can highlight maybe this piece of the cloth, right? Can highlight this edge and also this edge over here, right? And I can highlight this, why not? as I was saying, this is not as slanted as I thought it was. Ah. Okay. Yeah, maybe the cube. Oh, the cube only has like a small relationship to this. I just want to suggest like the shapes that we have in the picture, right? For example, this here. I don't see anything else in this part of the tiny pyramid that we have. This little note, this little mark, is suggesting value, but we won't get there until, I don't know, like part 4 of the course. After that, I think we can mark down some spaces that we have here. Maybe little creases and folds. We won't go all the way with this. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted to try and make the structure of the thing that I have in front of me. And I have the structure already. I can go, I don't know, like deeper into detail if I want to. But yeah, I just wanted to point out what is the use of measuring when we are making a drawing, right? Like understanding that there's like a fourth in here, right? Like this little space was a fourth, and then there were like, I don't know, 3/4 in this space, right? At first I thought it was a third, but yeah, I think was like a little bit more space in here, but I already limited my frame just to not get like all the way over the drawing, right? Just to not get over my my frame. So yeah, that's it. Remember to always measure. So yeah, they try to use halves and thirds and units to get like a language, to get like a grammar and the relations between the elements that you have in front of you. Okay, I hope you like this lesson and thank you. How do frames work? That's a good start. I don't know, maybe. Yes. So when we are talking about frames, we are talking about like a kind of viewport that we have, right? A frame is something that is going to define your picture plane. That is a concept, picture plane. Yeah. Picture plane is the thing that you have in front of you. Have you noticed the cliche of the cinematographer or the movie maker doing this? Like, ooh, this is a perfect shot, right? Well, those corners made with between the thumb and the index finger, right, with the arms totally extended, are a way of framing. They're just like trying to see where would a nice shot go, or how would a nice composition work, right? Do we have that? Yes, we do. We can actually make a viewport. We can make like a frame with, I don't know, cardboard, and add a couple strands of, I don't know, we can even add like a piece of thread, right? And make a tiny viewport. That's something good and that's something nice, and we can have some references from there. I don't know, you can also make a viewport with a piece of, I don't know, transparent acetate or mylar. Why not? So yeah, and why is it important? I told you in a couple lessons that it is important because it limits what you're seeing, right? The world seems to be infinite, at least for us. Like we won't live enough to experience the totality of the world, only maybe this planet, if much, right? So the world is huge. our eyes cannot see everything that there is in the world, right? So we have to limit it. We have to choose something to draw. We have to define an object. And a good way to define an object is to frame, right? If we remember the last class, we were drawing this vase, right, that had a couple things in it. And something good, and this time I'm gonna give you a tip. When you're trying to draw straight lines, please use your elbow or use your arm, right, as main axis for the line, because that way you're going to be able to have a little bit more motion, right? So remember that when I made the drawing about the vase, what I did was to define a little bit of space, right? And that way I was able to make the figure work, right? I wanted to know what I was including and what I wasn't including in the drawing, right? So that's something to take into account when we're drawing something. Not only for matters of like limiting the space and defining our object, but also for matters of composition. It is really important, if you want to compose a good picture, that you pick a good frame, right? If we have a frame that, I don't know, that is like this, we're omitting a lot of space, and that has connotations in terms of what do you want to express? Is the background more important for you than the object? Do you want to make the picture look like crowded? Do you want to make the picture look like, I don't know, nostalgic? Is there a sense of emptiness? So all those things are important. And main thing, start with a frame, right? I know a lot of people, whenever they're drawing, they always want to start right away with the character, and there's a head, and the blah, blah, blah. And look, it didn't fit the paper. So try to think of the composition first. Try to think of try to go from general to specific. So that way you understand and you can handle and manage the picture you're working with. That's an advice. So try to think of the frame first. Try to see the limits of your drawing first, so you can actually make a nice drawing. I hope, right? And that'll help you to understand different ways of framing the same thing. A good activity, a good exercise that we could have, I'm gonna erase this with my gray kneaded eraser. A good activity that you can have could actually be trying to test different kinds of framing, right? I know for sure that some are more useful in terms of visual economy, in terms of actual visibility, what is visible in the picture, right? I'm gonna behave kind of wildly, and I'm gonna use straight up a charcoal. Why? Because I don't know. I wanted to use a charcoal. So a good activity, a good exercise that we can make. This doesn't matter. I'm not going for precision, I'm going for gesture, which we will talk about in a couple minutes in the next session. So this is my composition. I'm not taking too much into account, right? I'm not even drawing the little elements that we had there. I'm just summarizing what do I want to show, right? I'm trying to pre-compose. And I think this comes from my experience as a cartoonist, because it's like panels, right? So what happens if we frame it like this? What happens if we make a square frame? They say in the world of comics that if we have a straight frame, that's one of the most boring ones. For that reason, a lot of cartoonists avoid the Instagram format and then just use the Instagram slides as panels instead of making full pages, right? Because if a vertical page or a horizontal page is more fun for some cartoonists. So what happens if we make a square? And what happens if we only pick the lower part of our drawing, which is the stool, right? It is the same picture. I'm not going for precision again. I'm making doodles. I'm trying to find out, like, what do we have here, right? What is the actual thing that we want to include in the drawing? Do we want to go for a long detail, like the pyramid that we had there and the base, right? I don't know. It's up to you. You can experiment with that. So my advice is think about the frames. Think about the composition that you want to make. See you in the next lesson. Thank you very much. All right, so this table keeps getting messier and messier for each lesson, but I wanted to talk about gesture. What is gesture? Gesture is that kind of thing that you like when you're appreciating one of the paintings by your favorite artists, or a drawing that looks like very original and stylistic, maybe. Well, I think that's a very vague definition. I'm sorry to put my subjectivity into this, but yeah, I think gesture is a summarization, like as the word indicates. It is actually like an action, like a gesture that shows you the summarization or the synthesis of a structure, right? Why do we use gesture drawing? We use gesture drawing when we want to solve something quickly, more than precisely. If you Google gesture drawing, you might find that mostly it is about, I don't know, it will show you anatomy drawings, like quick anatomy drawings, like summarizing the shape of the torso into a cube, or making a couple lines so we have like the angles made by the elbows and knees into something that is like way simpler. And yeah, so that's the way it works. Is it necessary? I think it is. I think you have to learn how to make a quick gesture drawing before you learn how to work with structure. And after you learn how to work with structure, organizational line variation, perspective, anatomy, all of that, you can still keep making gesture drawings as annotations or sketches, right? Or even as final drawings. Like, why not? So what is the thing with gesture drawing? We usually work with very simple elements, right? We try to simplify some things that we have around, right? So I'm going to pull up a drawing by Daniel Lezama, Mexican painter, over here. Yeah, so how should I do it? When I'm drawing like this, the first thing that I want to make, I'm using this one. I love it. It has a charcoal lead, but I have other leads in here. I try to find like the quickest way to summarize the shapes. So I have a drawing here, and what I want to make is actually very quickly to define the structure of a drawing. Why am I using this messy charcoal? Because I wanted to show you with gesture drawing, you don't need to worry about precision. It is not that you cannot be precise with charcoal. Actually, you have to get to be precise with charcoal at some point, right? We want to be as loose as possible. With gesture, we are going to mix some elements in the drawing to get the feeling of the figure that we have, right? So here I'm making like different kinds of pressure. I'm going like super quickly, right? I could do I could make a gesture drawing just using a piece of charcoal, like not even vine charcoal or compressed charcoal, just like a piece of charcoal that helped me to get the way things work in the drawing. So now that I've noticed that this drawing, like the character, were looking like a little bit more in this angle, I want to point this out. I'm using like cover of a book by a Mexican painter that I like, who's called Daniel Lezama. I think he's like a realistic painter. He like implements elements from the Aztec culture and the Olmec culture and all pre-Columbine cultures into his own work. And yeah. So what happened here? What was my main mistake? Did you notice? I would have scolded my students for the mistake I just made. Didn't make a frame for it, but I think I sort of did it. I think the character is like a teenager or like a kid, so we get like this kind of weird anatomy, like weird proportions that kids have when they're growing up. Like, yeah. And there's also like a lot of creases in that. And yeah, I think that's a quick gesture drawing. We can think of something else if we want. For example, I don't know, why don't we make a gesture drawing about the thing that I have in here, right? I'll get rid of this. Okay, so let's use something else just to not be as daring. Let's use a piece of graphite. This is an HB. No, I don't like the HB. Let's go with this guy. No. 4B. That's good enough. So when you're working in a gesture drawing, right, the most important thing is to get the structure, right, or the gestures, as I was saying, like the movements that we have, and how things connect. So, did you see? When I was going through the body of a banana, I throw it away. The stroke for the apple that I have in front of me, right? And I went straight up with the orange that I have. Do you have to make those squiggles for the orange? No, that's just for me to get like directions from the drawing. So I see that here, maybe in the middle of a orange, right? The mango appears, and I can twitch this because I think right now this is a little bit higher. So yeah, that's a gesture drawing. Not getting the same from here. The gesture drawing doesn't focus in the structure as a geometric element. The gesture drawing usually focuses in gestures or relationships within elements, like what are the shapes that I have there? Where do they come from? How quickly can I work with them? Or how quickly can I solve them? And it's also a very intuitive way of drawing. Usually, we start with gesture, then we go and start twitching the elements that we just drew. Why do we do that? Because the gesture is like the first clue, the first hint that we have for our drawing, right? So yeah, that's the main reason we work with gesture drawings for this kind of stuff. Okay, so any other advice regarding gesture? When I'm making gesture drawings, I usually use my wrist the most, right? I love them. I love to go like super quickly with them. I can add a lot of detail here. I can go with a piece of cloth and erase all of this, and then go and start like adding some detail. I can go here and do the same. But yeah, like remember, have a loose wrist, I have a loose arm. Don't get too much into the movement of your into the movement of your fingers, because you're trying to be loose. You're trying to loosen up and get the general structure quickly. So that way you can like make a nice drawing and get the general gist of the picture that you have in front of you, or the object that you want to draw, right? What happens if you miss spots or if you don't get too much into detail? Do another one. that's what gesture is for. Gesture is an excellent way of warming up to. So yeah. Or if you want to correct it, well, correct it. We have erasers for that. And you can do more. I don't know. Yeah. So that's the thing with gesture drawing. Usually when we work with it, we try to get something as quickly as possible, right? We try to get something as effective as possible. Whenever we start the drawing, we start with gesture, right? So let me pull out, I don't know, like another piece of paper. A good way of working up with gesture, or I don't know if warming up, but yeah, of working with gesture would be maybe try to quickly understand like the way something's working, right? Maybe make some variations. Change the order of the things that you have in front of you. I don't know why I usually start with the banana in this bowl. And try to understand like the details of it, right? What am I missing here? I'm missing this particular space. So I'll try to get into that part. Still in gesture drawing. So I'm trying to get like the way the things are related to each other within my picture. So I was missing the edge of the bowl. Now what I'm trying to do is to focus in that part and twitch a couple things, right? So you can go into detail with gesture drawing. You can actually like understand like general structures, right? Notice that it's mostly line and squiggles and curves. You use a lot of ellipses, you use a lot of circles, more than trying to find like particular angles or trying to find like precision within the drawing. Because, I don't know, I think that way we are getting more into the general stuff. So later we can go into the particular stuff, into the details. Yeah. It's a good exercise. Try to go to a park and make as many gesture drawings as you can. Try to find nice spaces, trees. Try to find like the general structure of the tree. Like, does it look like a cloud? What kind of cloud, right? Is there a relationship between the negative space of the holes between the leaves? Is there a nice silhouette in the positive space, like the cloud formed by the leaves? Do you want to try to draw a bench? How is the bench looking, right? Do you have it in front of you? Is it sideways? How can you summarize the shapes and make a quick drawing? Is there people in the park? Like, you can work with gesture drawings in so many ways, right? And it can help you drawing like any kind of way. Like, you can actually make people from gesture drawing. As I was telling you in the first, in the video about other methodologies, right? We can actually find out ways to get a good gesture drawing without a lot of effort, right? So here, what we're getting is the actual pose, not we're not getting like the precision of a character or like I don't know, like an element that we are going to use as a final drawing. We're getting notes, we're getting sketches, we are making marks in our drawings. We are working with things that we can use for later, right? So that's a good thing that you can use, and there's a couple exercises for that. Okay, you can make a setup at home, and from that setup you can draw it using gesture drawings first. Another thing that you can make is the thing that I just did. Like, find a picture in Google. This one is Daniel Lezano's paintings, and this one is the bowl that I have in front of me. So try to find a picture from an artist that you like and copy it using gesture drawing. Why? Because I don't know, identify some basic shapes in there and the relationship between them. That's a good thing to do all the time, right? I mean, imitation is a good part of learning. So yeah, okay, that's my advice on gesture drawing and how to use it. And I hope you liked it, and I hope it's useful for you. And thank you. Hello, welcome to this lesson. We will talk about a very useful concept today, which is contour. What is contour? Let me tell you, there are different kinds of contour. Usually we have like the most famous one, the contour line, which is the outline of the things that we have, right? That is something that is an abstraction, right? The contour is an abstraction of the things that we actually have. We don't have actual lines in real life. We are just interpreting some elements as lines in the drawing that we make, right? Another thing that we have is the cross contour. The cross contour is like the outline, but more like a structural element, right? A cross contour is actually what makes the outline, right? It's like a cross, yeah. Like it's a line that goes across the outline, right? I can explain a little bit better in a bit, but yeah. So why don't we think of, hey, this one is a very nice example that I have in here, right? So if we think about like the contour of this object, we can think of like the outline right here, right? That is the contour or the contour line, right? And we also have the cross contour. In this case, these ribs are defining the cross contour. The cross contour lines are each one of these ribs here, right? We can even make more, or we can point them out in another way. But fortunately for this particular object, it is the way it works, right? Yeah, so we can see like an example here. Let's try to work with it. I'm gonna pick earlier I was going to pick like a 2B. I think I have a 2B here. That's a 6B. Yeah, let's go with this 2B. Has a really small point. Gotta sharpen it. But yeah, so if we think of this, let's go with this B. Okay. If we think of like the contour of something, for example, we can think of the contour of this object like this way. When we're making a contour drawing, usually what we have to do is like this, like trying to make our hand follow the line, right? It is very hard, you know. In this case, look how I messed up over here. So let's try drawing the contour line of my fruit bowl over here. I'm trying to go with the whole thing, right? I'm trying to go with the general structure of all of the elements that I have. I'm trying to go with the whole outline. Look at this mess up here. I tried to connect them in the last part, made a lot of mistakes, but yeah, that is what a contour drawing is. I mean, this is an exaggeration. Actually, I can go straight up and do the bowl the way I was working with the fruits and the bowl. So I can go with this. When I make a contour drawing, sometimes I can do it without lifting my pencil and go back here. And I can make like the outline for the whole thing. Trying to that the lines fall in the space where I started. That's another kind of exercise, right? Like do not lift your hand until you're done, right? This one's like way taller than the actual base, right? So this is the contour. I could go with contour like lifting my hand using something like maybe something like this. I like to start with this line. Why? Because I'm aiming to get the most difficult curve first. And what I'm trying to do is to make my hand follow the directions of the object. I'm abstracting like the way it works, right? So yeah, that's a good activity for contour lines. There's something else that we can do when we're talking about contour. Contour, remember, is when we're talking about contour line, it's the outline of the whole thing. So we can just watch our hand, just not the one we draw with, or if you want to draw with your other hand, or if you're ambidextrous, you can actually work with it. And you can go and try to make a very detailed contour drawing of it, right? Are you watching this? Like I'm making a hand in a way easier way than I'm making my own, like a fruit bowl. I don't know if to brag about it or if it's embarrassing how I was doing in terms of like drawing a fruit bowl, which should be easier. But yeah, you can do this, right? You can draw your own hand using contour, right? Yeah, just focus on the outline. Try to not focus in the inner structure. That's the main thing. Inner structure is like something else. Contour is about like the general appearance of the thing. Okay. Let's go with cross contour, and let me explain. So you already know like the contour of the thing. Let's do it with my hand. The contour of the thing is like the outline that we have, right? And how the outline is related to something else. It's more like about like the outline of the positive space, right? But when we are talking about cross contour, it is actually the opposite, right? For example, these ribs in here in this base. So I need to draw an ellipse here. I'm sorry. That's the only way I'm gonna make it with this vase. It has a very irregular set of ribs and edges. You know, like it's not an easy thing to draw. But I'll try. I don't know. I'm not measuring. I'm not doing anything like that. But what I want to do in this very, very synthesized drawing is to divide these things in here because they are part of a cross contour. Actually, they are part of the cross contour of the picture, yeah. What is the cross contour? So imagine that I draw like an apple, right? Or a ball, right? A cross contour is the lines that the ball would have if I cut it, right? So that is the cross contour, right? In different ways, in different, axes and in different directions. So like a chunk of the apple, right? Or like a slice of the apple. Or, well, this wasn't an apple, this was a ball, so bad analogy, but yeah, like a slice of the thing, like the lines that are not the outline but the inline. I don't know, English is not my main language, but I guess that worked. So trying to find out like the lines that compose or that make the structure of the thing that we have in front of us, right? So going back to the vase, right? I don't want to get too much into detail here, but if we look at it, these first couple cross contour lines are ellipses, right? They go all the way back here. And once we get into the neck, they're starting to get like this, right? So these are the contour lines that the element or the vase has, right? They're weird. They're like exaggerated. But yeah. And once we get here, we can make them a little, because they lose their, because this in the structure, these things are like making another volume, but we can go with like something more elliptical if we want, right? So that is the cross contour of something, right? For example, if you draw a pencil, if we draw a pencil, we are going to understand that, well, this can be like a hexagon if we are trying to be precise, or they can be ellipses if we make it round. But yeah, like there's a cross contour here and also here, right? And it's the interaction between the cross contour lines that make the volume of the element, right? So when we are making this abstraction from a 3D object to a 2D drawing, a bidimensional drawing, we have to take into account that element, like the cross contour and the contour lines that we have. There's also the modified contour, but we won't talk about that. You can Google it if you want. But yeah, I think we won't make a lot of use of it. Yeah, that's it. That's about it regarding contour. So you can, I don't know, like use a battle. That's a good activity. Use a battle to make a drawing of using cross contour, a bottle of, I don't know, like an empty bottle of wine or Coke or whatever, and maybe use some flowers or some complex shapes for if you want to exercise your contour line drawings. So that's a good way to give the hand a little bit more precision. You're going to be tempted to go small because you have more control over small movements. At least I do sometimes. But if you go big, you're going to try to get more precision from your other joints, right? So yeah, if you go big, you're going to get more precision from your joints, like the elbow and the shoulder and the wrist. And if you go small, well, you will have more stability. But yeah, so remember that, like make a couple exercises about contour, draw some bottles or vases for cross contour, or fruit. Round things are good for cross contour, and make some, I don't know, like some flowers or some complex shapes interacting with each other for contour, so you can get like the movements for the line. Okay, and that's it. I will see you in the next lesson. Thank you very much. Hello, I hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to talk about blind contour. What is that? Blind contour is a very nice exercise and activity just to help like dissociating the relationship between your hand and your eye. When we say blind contour, where we are going to get is a drawing in which you're not watching what you're doing, right? You're just trying to follow the shape, right? You're just trying to, I don't know, like make something that is useful for you. I have seen this particular exercise in many ways. Sometimes like people standing up, right, with the board like this, and drawing without watching what they're doing, right? They're looking in front of them, sometimes like with a little bit of support, sometimes without it, right? Sometimes looking other way, and sometimes following with the finger, like the space that they have in front of them or the thing that they have in front of them, their object, right? So in this case, we can try to find like something that we have in front of us, or something, well, like your hand, that's a good one, and just follow up with the shape, right? There's many ways to perform this activity. I would say do whatever you want. One of the strategies is not to lift your hand from the paper, because that way you're going to lose like the coordinates and you can get lost and lose proportions. You're trying to hold the proportions within this drawing. The goal for this exercise is not to have a very precise or realistic drawing. You're not doing it for that reason. You're trying to get better picture, right? But the most important thing is that you're trying to understand, or you're trying to exercise the muscles of your hand, and how you can link them with the things that you're watching. Okay, so let me start with the one of my hand. I have a couple sheets here. Why? Because I don't wanna I don't wanna waste them, and I know that in this activity I can go like super fast, but I will try to slow down so I can have more precision. What am I going to do? Well, yeah, I think I have my hand here, but I want to put my hand like holding an orange, a plastic orange. So let's start. Where should we start? I don't know, maybe from one edge, right? It's like a good way to limit the viewport or the picture plane, right? What I'm doing right now is trying to follow my own fingernail, and I'm trying to follow my fingers. I'm ignoring totally the orange. Now that I went back, I think I lost the way my hand is working, I guess. So if you see here, I don't know what you're seeing right now. I'm doing a blind contour activity. Okay, so let's notice what I just did, right? What was the most challenging thing here? That I started here and then over here, as you can see, I focused on these fingers, and then here I totally lost the proportions, right? Would I say this was a failure or an unsuccessful activity? No, not at all. I think that's good. I'm even going to use a bigger pencil now, a 2HB. It's a bigger but lighter pencil. So yeah, I'm gonna use this one, so it's, I don't know, more fun. And I'm going to use another, I don't know, like just my hand like this, right? I'm trying to use the segments of fingers, phalanges, I think they are in English. I don't know. I doubt it. I hope I said it well. And from where I'm watching, my hand has I don't know, like a better angle, and the index looks a little bit taller than the next finger, and the thumb is right there. I'm gonna try to go with the fingernail over here. I'm gonna try to slow down and making the wrist, and that's it. Hey, that was almost good. It looks like a monkey hand. I don't know, like the one with the wishes. So yeah, that's what I got here, and I think it works. So yeah, we have to do this like a couple times until we get used to it, right? Like warming up, like, okay, how is the relationship between the things that I have in front of me? I'm gonna close this. I want to have the pencil holder as the main element here. I'm gonna start the next drawing with the camera. Why not? I mean, it is one of the subjects now. So, what should I do? Where should I start? Should I make the whole thing with the tripod and all? I don't know. Well, let's pick like a certain part so I can have like a more complex picture to draw. So I'm starting here with a round part, like a round shape. That is going to be my main element, like my base here. I'm not gonna make the whole tripod. I will try to go back where I was drawing before. Sometimes when we make these movements, if you remember the lesson about like warming up exercises, when we make these movements, we get a little bit of motion, a little bit of consistency with the repetition. And I try to locate like how long are my movements and how continuous are them related to each other, right? So I'm looking straight at the camera. I'm not cheating, I swear. So I hope it goes well. And I'm gonna make this little button here, right? So that was a mess. All right. So what happens here? When we are in this one, right? I thought I was drawing a little bit bigger than this. But in this one, if you see like the way we're drawing, right? We are disjointing this part from this other part, right? If you see this part over here, we have the obturator, well done. The lens being the main element of a picture is the one that is fracturing the whole camera thing, right? Here we have like the mic. Here we have, I don't know what this is. And we didn't even have the screen, which was over here. Yeah, here we have the beginning of the drawing, which was the tripod space, right? But yeah, we can work with that. That's it. Let's try going a little bit bigger before we move on. Let's try to work with this tool that I have in front of me. So I'm gonna start from the upper part. I'm going to repeat this kind of cylinder. I'm looking at this tool. I'm not looking at anything else, right? And right here, I will go and work with the other leg of the stool. The stool has a little bit of a perspective angle. It's not totally frontal. So I'm gonna go with this, all right? I'm gonna go with this other leg. I think this other leg is gonna be successful. What do you think? I don't know. Like I have to look back, and I'm rushing. I'm sorry, I was rushing, but hey, it is more successful than I thought. I had a glimpse of a drawing when I was like looking when I was moving my leg, but yeah, I think that's good. I don't know. I pretty successful. So something else that we can do, as we are seeing right here, is to go with some other pictures that are more complex, right? You can go with blind contour, thinking of, I don't know, like watching someone, making a portrait, something like that, right? Remember, I mean, you are your body and you are going to use as many how to say this? I don't want to say hinges. I want to say joints, like your fingers, in your wrist, in your elbow, and in your shoulder. So you can upscale things. You can make them bigger. So yeah, okay. Now that we did this, let's move on to the other one that I have here. I have a kind of a drawing here. And we can try and go for something more ambitious. Like what? I don't know. Maybe I'm not worrying about this piece of paper staining the other one right now, but I'm going to use like only one. let's see, what can we make? Maybe a big drawing in which we have like different relationships within different elements. That would be nice in terms of contour. And even nicer or more interesting if we are using blind contour. So the first thing that we have to do is map map the paper that we have. Sometimes, as I was saying, what we do is to another activity, another exercise that we can do is to have like another drawing or another picture here and follow with our fingers, right? And try to follow the same motion, right? But I currently don't have any 2D picture here. I'm sorry. So what I'm gonna go with now is try to draw my surroundings and try to make like a panoramic picture of my surroundings right now. So as I was saying, I'm trying to go slow. We do tend to do this for precision, to take the pencil shorter, to hold the pencil like with a shorter end for precision, but I'm gonna still go with a bigger one, with a longer one. Yeah, I'm still using the big pencil. I like it. So let's see. A straight line over here. I'm gonna show you. Where are we? How are these classes made? So I'm gonna reveal the tricks, but you will not be able to see how it works because of the imprecision of this blind contour activity. Yeah, I'm sorry. Now I'm going with some curtains that we have here. Should I have just like put a stick in between all of them instead of trying to go with detail? Because detail is not a good strategy in a blind contour activity. Detail is actually the opposite of a good strategy. Like if we go from general to specific, this is like this kind of angle that I just made is like the window. All right, so we have here a little bit of perspective. Yeah, let's go all the way down and move it. And there's a stool over here. I'm not looking at it. You are looking at it. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I do know what I'm doing, but I'm not able to see it with my eyes right now. We'll see it once I reveal it. There's a little roll of, I think, like some blinds in here. I will not go back to going back to it for a detail. For example, I was thinking of the handles of like a piece of furniture that we have over there, but I'm not gonna go with them. And finally, in this part, we have two things. So I'm gonna go with the big one first in the end, just to like have an edge. I'm going super fast. I'm sorry. I should have specified like some of the elements that I have in my drawing. And all the way down, we have like some of the handles and hinges for the tripod. I can like see that there's the paper there, like in the bottom of my eye level. I'm just not watching yet, so I'm going to go with the camera. Do you see that it is way easier if I go with general structures? That I was like cheating in terms of like the exercise, because I went with the general structure instead of going with the contour. So I'm sorry for that. I was just trying to impress you guys. But yeah, I guess I won't. I don't know. I'm still speculating how will this turn out. There's another stool over here. Is it? No. I think we have a light here, and we have another. I'm having so much fun. It's like speculating and yeah, like being ridiculous towards an audience that I still don't know. I'm sorry. Yeah. So we have something over here, and I'm just touching the edge of the paper so I know like where does it end. And that's it. Hey, that was great. Look at that. Do you see like this how it works? Oh, that was amazing. Okay, now I'm surprised. It's a reaction video now. So yeah, here we have one of the cameras that we are working with. Here I have the other camera. One light, another light. And I didn't draw the whole thing. Here's a piece of furniture that we have in the background. As I was saying, if I went for the hinges or the handles, I wouldn't have made it, because whenever you go to a detail that is right in the middle of something else, you either use your fingers to guide yourself from the line, right? Or if you're doing like a blind contour, trying to be like totally blind and not using another hand for reference, you will get lost. So I had some other things around me, but I went for the biggest ones. I try to find intervals. We will see that concept later. The intervals are the vertical and horizontal lines that guide our picture, right? So in this picture, I had some beats. There's the light, there's the camera, there's the stool, there's the furniture piece, there's the curtains, there's the other light, and there's the camera. And in here I just like made a margin with some of the isolating stuff that we have in here. So as you can see, I didn't take into account like this table or other stuff that was like in a foreground towards me. I only took into account the things that were into the background, so I could pan around and have like a horizontal composition, right? So that's, I think that's fun. You can do it in the dark if you want. You can try and make a portrait by memory using blind contour, because it's a very, very nice activity. It's cheerful. It's like a game. Yeah, so you can do it. And the more you practice, the better it gets. Okay? So you can ask me like, hey, so does this make any sense? And I'm going to tell you yes. This is not the same as this and this, right? It's to loosen up your hand and your arm, and to detach the arm from your eyes, like not keep watching the whole thing. You can make some gestures. What about a gesture drawing? You can use this kind of technique, but generally it's just to like recalculate like how can you work or make things work in this sense. I made a very good composition. I think with this one, I'm not saying that it's that I will hang it in my house, but I think it was surprisingly well composed, if that makes sense. So yeah, try it at home. Try to make something simple. Try to make your own hand. Try to make your own face with mirror. You can try to, I don't know, like draw your living room without watching at the paper. And yeah, that's it. So try to do this exercise with blind contour, and let's see that you can reflect on the results, okay? That's it. Thank you very much.
Hi again! Congratulations on completing this free 3-hour Drawing Essentials course. It's a pretty great achievement, and I hope that you have enjoyed it. You are now ready to get started on your drawing journey. If you would like to uncover all the hidden tricks and techniques of drawing and sketching, head over to skillademia.com. The Beginner to Advanced course consists of many more hours of exercises, explanations, and projects to complete, which will turn you into a pro in no time. You'll be able to learn all about line variation, planar analysis, perspective, value, and drawing figures and characters, all while working together with the instructor. If this sounds like the course for you, go check it out. Thank you for watching, and see you soon.